The work and procedures shown and described in this videotape are intended for people having a fundamental understanding and familiarity with the subject presented in this program. Every possible circumstance that might involve potential hazard could not have been anticipated in the production of this program. The warnings and safety suggestions in this videotape are not inclusive of every situation. You must satisfy yourself that the operations and procedures you use in your situation are safe for you and people around you. Before operating any equipment, review the machine owner manual and become totally familiar with the controls and safety procedures for that particular machine. The makers of this videotape disclaim any liability for injury or damage arising out of attempts to perform the work or procedures shown and described in this videotape. If other materials are used, such as fuels, lubricants, cleaners, or chemicals, precautions for handling should be obtained from container labeling. This program is not a substitute for the owner or operator manual supplied with the machine. Remember, as always, consult your supervisor if you have any questions when operating equipment.
The tee. It's the area that's designed specifically for hitting the first shot on each hole. On many older golf courses, the tees were quite small, which was adequate for the limited amount of play they typically received. However, as golf's popularity increased, tee sizes have also increased to accommodate the heightened playing pressures. Today, most courses offer several tee locations for each hole. The forward tees are generally for high handicap players, beginners, and the senior players. The center tees are for mid-handicap or average players. The center tee is usually the largest, since it is used the most. And the back tees are intended for low handicap or expert players. To accommodate golfers of varying abilities, sometimes there are 3, 4, or even 5 tees on each hole. Like many other areas of the golf course, tees require daily maintenance. If you are assigned to service the tees, make sure you understand your responsibility as it relates to your particular golf course. If you have questions or are unfamiliar with any procedure, always check with your supervisor. As always, when using a service vehicle, before getting started, perform the necessary pre-start checks as directed by your supervisor. These usually include an overall visual inspection for obvious damage or leaks, checking the engine oil and hydraulic fluid, and checking the tire pressure. When you're satisfied that the vehicle is in proper operating condition, you'll want to load all the necessary tools and materials that you'll need to carry out your responsibilities. Reviewing a checklist is a handy way to avoid leaving needed items behind. Here's a typical list of supplies that may be required: trash cans, trash bags, cleaning solutions, rags, string trimmer, weed popper or knife, small sprayer, clean towels, ball washer solution, foot brush cleaning tool, water coolers filled with fresh water and ice, key for drinking station, drinking cups, divot mix, extra tee markers. The specific tools, cleaning supplies, and materials that you require will be determined by your tee service responsibilities. On any particular course, the division of tee service assignments will usually be determined by staff availability and budget considerations. While every course has its own distinct procedures, this training program illustrates some of the common practices associated with servicing the tee. When arriving at the tee, check the overall presentation of the entire tee area, making sure it's clean and orderly. Litter should be picked up, and anything that's out of place should be put in proper order. Stray weeds can be removed with a weed popper or a knife. A small sprayer can be ideal for spot treatment of insects or weeds, and a string trimmer can be used to keep the tee area neat and tidy. A number of accessories are commonly found near the tee. For instance, hole signs that display information such as the hole number, yardage, and par. Another accessory is the ball washer. Each ball washer is usually mounted on a stand with a towel attached for wiping the ball clean. Some ball washers are permanently mounted, others are portable. Portable ball washers can be moved, which helps relieve turfgrass damage caused by repeated foot traffic over the same area. Clean the outside of the ball washer. Then, check the washer to be sure it's full of the appropriate liquid. Refill as necessary. Ball washers are sometimes filled with water only, soap and water, windshield washer fluid, and even solutions of water with a little bleach. Check with your supervisor to learn what's appropriate at your course. You should also inspect the washer to be sure it's in proper operating condition. If the mechanism is broken or the brushes are worn, relay that information to your supervisor. Next, check the towels. If a towel is missing or in bad condition, replace it. Shoe spike cleaners may be attached to a stand or positioned close to the ball washing unit so golfers can clean debris from their shoes before starting the next golf hole. Check the foot brush to see that it's clean. If necessary, clean excess grass from the foot brush. Tee areas may also include benches so golfers can sit as they wait to hit their tee shot. Benches should be inspected daily and cleaned as necessary. Usually, a trash receptacle is also maintained near the tee, and it should be emptied daily. If your course has a recycling program, you should separate the recyclables from the other trash. If your course lines trash receptacles with trash bags, be sure you have an adequate supply with you. And finally, drinking water stations are usually located on tees throughout the course. Keeping these coolers filled with cold water, especially on hot, humid days, can be crucial. If you are responsible for servicing the water stations, you may be instructed to rotate spare water coolers that are filled with ice and fresh water to replace coolers that are on the course. If you're assigned the task of cleaning and refilling the coolers, be sure to follow the requirements for safe handling of drinking water, ice, and dispensers as instructed by your supervisor. When filling and transporting the coolers, make sure they are under your control at all times. Also, when servicing the coolers, always check the drinking cup supply and replenish as necessary. It's becoming standard practice on most courses to secure the water coolers to prevent tampering. So be sure the cooler is securely locked in place before leaving it at the drinking station. Once the general housekeeping is completed, you may be assigned the task of policing the area between and around the existing tee markers. You'll need to pick up broken tees, lost golf shoe spikes, large clumps of turf, litter, or anything else that's out of place. Also, if there's a receptacle for broken tees, it should be emptied. It's important to do a thorough job of cleaning this area to keep potentially damaging objects out of the mower reels. Tee areas, especially on par 3 holes, receive lots of divot marks. Divot marks are the openings left when a divot is torn from the turf by the action of a golf club when it strikes the ball. Continued wear caused by divoting on tees increases the chance of weed problems, so it's important to repair divot marks regularly. The most popular method is to fill the opening with sand or a sand-seed mixture. After filling the divot mark, tamp down the material so it is level with the surrounding area. Some courses use a sand nutrient mix, while others used dyed sand. Your supervisor will instruct you concerning the practices recommended on your course. On some courses, another tee accessory is a divot box containing divot mix. This gives golfers an opportunity to fill their own divot. It's a practical accessory, especially on par 3 holes. If your course provides divot boxes, it's important to keep them filled with fresh divot mix. The grass on the tee should be short enough that it does not obstruct clean contact between the club face and a teed ball. Your superintendent will determine the appropriate mowing height and set the mowing schedule based on the rate of growth. Before mowing the tee, the mower operator should re-inspect the entire area for branches, twigs, broken tees, or other debris that could damage the mower reels. It's important to double-check in order to avoid unnecessary mower maintenance. The rules of golf define the teeing ground as the starting place for the golf hole to be played. It is a rectangular area 2 club lengths in depth, the front and sides of which are defined by the outside limits of 2 tee markers. Tee markers designate the area from which play begins on every hole. They are an essential feature of each tee. Depending on the golf course, tee markers can range from simple to extravagant. The course designates which tee should be used by each skill level of golfer. Various colored markers or differently shaped objects usually differentiate one tee level from another. Moving the tee markers in a planned pattern helps distribute traffic and divoting across the entire teeing surface. This helps avoid excessive wear to a particular area while also giving damaged turf a chance to recover. The amount of play and the resulting turf damage is one factor that dictates the frequency of tee marker movement. Under normal playing pressure, the tee markers are generally moved on a daily basis. Sometimes the markers are moved by the person who mows the tees, sometimes by a course setup person who also cuts cups in the putting greens, and sometimes by the person designated to perform a variety of tee service duties. The tee marker location is usually determined by the flag location for that hole on this day. If the flag position is in the front of the green, the tee markers will usually be placed towards the back of the teeing area. If the flag position is near the back of the green, the tee markers will usually be placed near the front of the tee. And if the flag position is near the middle of the green, the tee markers are normally placed near the middle of the tee area. The goal is to have each hole play as close as possible to its stated yardage. Usually, an attempt is made to keep the overall distance of the golf course relatively consistent through a coordinated program of daily tee marker placement in relation to hole placement on the putting greens. One method of tee marker rotation on an 18-hole course includes placing 6 tee markers near the front of the teeing area, 6 near the middle, and 6 near the rear. Your supervisor will explain the method used at your course and will provide instructions for tee marker placement. Tee markers are generally placed 4 to 7 yards apart, and they should be placed in an area where the turf is in good condition. If possible, try to locate the markers in an area of the tee that will not cause traffic patterns over the damaged turf. Additionally, because the rules allow a golfer to tee off as much as 2 club lengths behind the tee markers, approximately 3 yards of usable teeing ground must be available behind each marker. You must be sure there is adequate room for an unobstructed backswing from this farthest back position. To reduce the risk of a low shot ricocheting off a tee marker and back towards the golfers, avoid placing a forward tee marker in the direct line of flight from another tee area. For golfers who play your course regularly, frequent tee marker rotation can increase their enjoyment of the course by varying the tee shots from day to day. It is important that each set of tee markers is properly aligned perpendicular to the center of the fairway landing area or to the center of the green on par 3 holes. There are different methods to achieve an accurate alignment. One way is to stand squarely on the tee box and extend both arms forward, pointing towards the middle of the fairway or landing area. Now bring both arms back, pointing them straight to both sides. The tee markers should be placed on line with the outstretched arms. When finished, step back and double-check the tee alignment. For dogleg holes, determine where the pivot point is. That is the point where the hole changes direction, and align the markers with the center of the fairway at that pivot point. With a little experience, placing tee markers square to the target landing area becomes second nature. Once the tee markers are placed, If the bench and ball washers are portable, they can be relocated in proximity to the tee markers. This is not only a convenience for the golfers, but it also helps reduce the excessive turf wear that can occur near the washer and bench. The bench should be positioned behind the tee markers and out of harm's way, should an errant shot be struck from the tees. Finally, before leaving the tee area, check the permanent official yardage markers at each tee. Make sure they are visible and free from trash or other debris. These permanent markers allow the golfer to determine the true yardage of the hole for that particular day. Tee surrounds refers to the area immediately surrounding the closely mowed tee surface. The grass on tee surrounds is usually treated similarly to the primary rough as far as cutting height and mowing frequency is concerned. It's important to keep the tee surrounds trimmed because long grass at the front of the tee may impede a low ball as it is driven from the tee. Likewise, at the back of the tee, long grass could interfere with the club during the backswing. Your golf course superintendent will determine the proper height and cutting frequency for the tee surrounds. Another teeing area that requires turf maintenance is the practice range. This is the area where golfers warm up and practice, usually prior to playing their round of golf. The presentation, care, and upkeep of the practice range are usually a coordinated effort between the golf services and pro shop staff and the course maintenance group. Your supervisor will provide direction concerning your responsibilities for the practice range. On practice ranges, readily visible tee markers or golf bag stands often designate the hitting area for that particular day. An approach often employed on large, wide practice tees involves stretching ropes across the length of the tee to designate the hitting area. As on tees, practice range markers should be moved systematically to allow turf recovery and divot opening repair. On many courses, the golf services or pro shop personnel are responsible for managing and retrieving practice range balls. They also police and maintain the practice area throughout the course of the day. The course maintenance staff is charged with mowing the practice range as needed, as well as repairing divot marks and maintaining an overall healthy turf. If divoting becomes especially severe across the entire practice range, it may be necessary for golfers to hit their shots off practice mats until the turf has had time to recover. Your course superintendent and course pro will usually make that decision. All members of the maintenance crew must understand the importance of and assume the responsibility for creating and maintaining well-groomed, well-appointed tee areas. Remember that the first tee is the spot where the golfers often form their first impression of your golf course. A positive experience not only on the first tee, but also on every tee, goes a long way in shaping the golfer's opinion and enjoyment of your golf course. This training program is designed to provide general information and guidelines relating to servicing the tee areas. Methods will vary from golf course to golf course. Always get clear direction from your supervisor before beginning any project.